and one of the great speeches was given by Senator Tim Scott. How are you, my friend?
Mark, it's always good to be on the air with you. And let me just thank you and your listeners for helping me qualify for the debate stage. You said go to votetimscott.com. They went to votetimscott.com. And as a result of going to votetimscott.com, we are on the stage because of people like you. Thank you and your supporters for helping me keep the loudest mouth on the stage in support of Israel, in support of the Jewish community, and frankly, in support of common sense and humanity.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Senator, and you earned it because you need to be on that stage. You're a very important voice. And let me ask you this. There's a lot of information that Biden and Blinken and that administration is putting enormous pressure, almost to the point of threats, on Netanyahu and his government to have what they call a humanitarian, what do they call it, a humanitarian cease or whatever? Pause. Yeah. A humanitarian pause. And they're insisting in Pacific they have fuel on Gaza, which Hamas terrorists always steal and keep on using rockets. What do you make of this pressure from Biden?
It is unbelievable. This was said at RJC that President Biden with a forked tongue. In the daytime, he is all about supporting Israel, and in the evening time, when the night starts and you can't see what he's doing, he supports a ceasefire. Let me just define a ceasefire for all of us to get on the same page. A ceasefire, Mark, is nothing more than an opportunity for Hamas to reload. If they were concerned about the Palestinians living in Hamas, they would tell them to leave. Do they say that, Mark? Of course not. Why? Because they want human shields. As a matter of fact, they've said in their own way that they are a nation of martyrs. Martyrs are willing to die for the cause. What is their cause? Genocide. Would you give a group of people willing to die for the cause of Jewish genocide time to reload? No.
I've never heard of anything like this. It's really amazing. Not in a single one of our wars have we ever done that. You fight a war to win, and you try and get it over with as fast as you can. Unfortunately, there are civilian casualties. I don't know of a single war where there weren't. In fact, some wars, civilians were focused on. They were the target, including World War II. So I'm not exactly sure what it is that they expect the Israelis to do here, but I'm concerned, Senator, that the pressure is so strong. It's all over the radical left media. It's all over the Middle East. They're going public with it. Blinken's going back. That I'm concerned that they are threatening to slow walk or reduce support for Israel, whether in weapons or in funds to purchase weapons, if Israel doesn't comply.
Well, I got to tell you, Mark, it's a terrible strategy for peace. It's a terrible strategy for Israel. And let's not go back to World War II. Let's go to October the 7th. The target in Israel was a target of civilians. They didn't target base. They targeted civilians. On October 7th, it was the beginning of genocide led by Hamas. That's called evil, and you have to off the map. In order to achieve that goal, we have to do what Prime Minister Netanyahu said earlier. He has to have free reign and finish this war. It is the most humane thing to do is allow Israel to achieve their objective as quickly as possible, as effectively as possible, and by doing so, you'll save as many lives as possible. Any delay only creates more human suffering on both sides of the border, but most importantly, the only responsible response to an attempt at Jewish genocide, the only responsible response to terrorism is to wipe the evil off the map. And if you listen to the words of Hamas themselves, they say they will repeat October the 7th over and over and over and over until they achieve the objective of the elimination of the Jewish state, and then they must turn their sights to America because there are 6 million Jews here. So let us not forget that their objective isn't simply the elimination of Israel, it's the elimination of Jews. That means they must come to America. And if we don't stand with Israel now, who will stand with us later?
Senator, what do you make of a reporter or reporters who Israel takes out one of the commanders of the atrocities that took place, the worst atrocities since the Holocaust, where babies were put in ovens, where people were decapitated, and on and on and on, these horrors? Reporters, or a network, a so-called news network, they raise questions about Israel taking out one of the commanders of this atrocity and say, well, was it worth it, given the number of civilians who died? And we don't even know, he says, how many civilians died, but was it worth it? What kind of a question is that, Senator?
You know, it's one that we should not even try to answer. Here's what we know. Immediately after the hospital situation, I'm only calling the bombing because they hit a parking lot, not even the hospital.
That's right.
The national media, they were so upset that they could not blame Israel for that attack. That what do? They literally refused to walk back their comments. What did Tlaib do? She kept the Palestinian flag flying, and she kept the tweet up. There is a really important war that is the misinformation war, Mark, that it can be more deadly than the October the 7th attack. If we watch this cancer in the media spread, we could see more human carnage, more deaths, more suffering as a result of the misinformation campaign. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm hoping that it's a misinformation war that's not on purpose, because it seems to me that there are forces that are extensions of the Hamas propaganda machine in our country, and I will tell you that is disgusting.
Mm-hmm. There are. They're in our colleges and universities. They're in our media. And they happen to be in the Democrat Party. Just three obvious examples: AOC, Tlaib, and Omar. Absolutely. It's amazing. And it's amazing, Senator, that the media forever has promoted all three of these people. All three of them.
They have helped make the Squad one of the better known forces on the radical left. They were crafted and created in the image of national media.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you another question about this debate coming up and so forth. I was listening to all the speeches at the Republican Jewish Conference, but one of them was different than the rest in this sense. Ramaswamy. He talks about an iron dome of diplomacy. When he called me a couple of months ago, because I thought his comments about Israel were outrageous, he said that he wants the cultures in the Middle East to assimilate, one among many, and we should get out of there, and that should be the goal. Is this guy drinking something? What the hell is he talking about?
I have now no longer understand the definition of assimilation. And
exactly.
Mark, it's devastating to hear the Iron Dome of democracy. Here's what
I meant of diplomacy. Of diplomacy.
Diplomacy? Here's the thing that we must understand. There are 400 million people surrounding the nation of Israel. Somewhere between 8 and 11% of those folks would like to see, at the minimum, see Israel eliminated. When you see the latest poll, I saw this recently. There's a poll from Lebanon, where it was published recently. 80% of the Lebanese respondents supported Hamas's October 7th attack.
Mm-hmm.
How do you assimilate?
You don't.
How do you acclimate? How do you not insulate and defend yourself with the most advanced technologies available on the planet to protect your citizens, to protect your wives, your mothers, even your mother-in-laws? You've got to protect them all. That is unconscionable for us to find ourselves in a situation where we're telling 9 million people to assimilate to the will and the whims of 400 million of which
it's idiotic. Let me ask you one more question. I know you got to go, and it's this. The House Republicans have proposed a straight-up bill, like bills used to be without all the Christmas ornaments on the tree there. And they said, all right, let's get whatever, it's $14.5 billion to the state of Israel as quickly as we can. Let's take it out of this preposterous effort by the Democrats and the Biden administration, and unfortunately some Senate Republicans, to fund 87,000 new IRS agents. We're in the middle of a war. They're in the middle of a war. We have our own issues that we have to deal with here. Nobody wants more IRS agents. That's not top of the line except the Democrats and Biden. And the media and Biden. Biden says he's going to veto it. The media agrees with them 100%, and then they use the Biden spin, which is the Republicans are playing games. Who's playing games around here, Senator?
Well, Mark, you hit the nail on the head. Bottom line is a very simple bottom line. It is the media and the Biden administration that wants to backpedal away from 100% clear support of Israel. Here's the fastest path to standing shoulder to shoulder with no daylight with Israel. Pass a standalone bill supporting Israel, nothing else, no distractions, and why not pay for it with the resources from an agency that every American that I know doesn't like? The IRS, 87,000 enforcement agents, costing the taxpayers $42 billion to pay for people to spy on their accounts. Where does that make sense? It must be an alternate universe where Mark Levin and Tim Scott simply don't exist, because we can't imagine a better plan than to support Israel and to support American small businesses with fewer investigations. And don't think that because you're an American taxpayer, you're a tax cheat. That's exactly what the far left wants us to believe about small business. But this is not about small business. This is simply about, can we not support Israel with a standalone package where there's overwhelming support on the left, overwhelming support on the right, overwhelming support in the House, overwhelming support in the Senate. The President of the United States is afraid of his radical left. He's afraid of the anti-Semites in his own party. That's my opinion.
I think you're right, Senator. Ladies and gentlemen, I've come to really like Tim Scott. I've gotten to know him. He is, as he sounds, a straight-up guy. He's a solid conservative, man of faith. And if people want to help you, Senator, where do they go?
They can chip in at votetimscott.com, votetimscott.com. Mark, thank you for standing for truth. Thank you for calling out the radical media. I grew up in a day where the Mark Levins of this world were the men who carried common sense in their heads and compassion in their hearts. But they had a fierceness about standing for right. They had a fierceness about standing for justice. I want to be that kind of American. Every American should be celebrating not just your story, but our story. The story of America is standing up against hate and not supporting it like we're seeing on the radical left. Thank you, Mark.
God bless you, sir. You be safe. You be safe out there, and we look forward to hearing more from you. You take care of yourself, Tim.
God bless you, sir.
You too.